If you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz. All right, guys, so we are at the end of the year. Thank you again for listening or watching this on YouTube. I really appreciate the feedback that you've given. If you have thoughts or you want an email read or you have, I don't know, a suggestion for us to watch here, email me at zerowizcast@gmail.com. That's zerowizcast@gmail.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter, X, at IamThatWiz, and you can follow me there, and you can contact me there if you'd like. Why not? What I'm doing for the end of the year is I'm going to do 3 more reviews. We're doing, for tomorrow, 7 Samurai. And I am also going to be doing some lists. This list I'm doing right now are my most thought about films of the year. This doesn't mean they're necessarily the best, but the ones that really made me think about film or about certain things in film or even just things in general that I normally don't think about when regarding film or in any circumstance, anything, to be absolutely honest. And just really opened my eyes to my thought process and how I look at films and everything. So I'm going to do a top 10, but first off, I'm going to start with my runners-up, and I'm going to put them all in different categories here. So here are my runners-up for my most thought-about films of the year. My first category is, how could this be so bad? Okay, these are films that stunned me with how terrible they are. And the first one is The Flash. This came out this year in 2023. It stars Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton, and I don't even remember who else was in this. Michael Shannon, I think, is in this too. I was stunned by how bad this was on numerous levels. The CGI was bad. The action wasn't good. They even had Michael Keaton in the movie, and he's barely used efficiently in this movie. And Ezra Miller was just terrible in this movie. The character of Barry in this film seemed to be like, I want him to be as sullen and as mopey as possible, and because it's a doubles film where you're playing a different version of Barry, I want him as obnoxious and as annoying as possible too. Yeah, the audience would love that, right? Good Lord, that was so bad. Even when you add Michael Keaton in this movie, it still turned out incredibly bad. Just stunning how bad this movie was. And then the other movie that's on this category, Love Story. Love Story particularly surprised me because this was nominated for Academy Awards. I think both the actor and actress got an Academy Award nomination, the director, the film got a nomination, the screenplay. It was one of the most money-making films of all time. And after I watched this film, I was flabbergasted by how bad it was. I don't even want to remember all the bad parts of it, but I'll put it this way, okay? I now understand where Lifetime films came from. Because if something like this was able to make so much money, then I can completely now understand how Lifetime films make as much money as they do. Blew me away when I watched that movie, how absolutely awful that was. Let's get into the next category, and this is the exact opposite of how could this be so bad, is better than I was expecting. And the first one I will talk about is Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. I've heard good things about this movie, but I was really expecting, it'll be like a cute, kind of corny, coming-of-age film about a little girl. So I was like, okay, can't be that good. I was actually surprised by how adorable the movie was and how good it was as well. Like, I was actually kind of surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie and with how good Rachel McAdams was. I will say this, and I think a lot of people might agree if they've seen it. Rachel McAdams should get a supporting nomination for this movie. Like, she was very good as the mother in this movie, so I would like to see her get some accreditation on that. But Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret is a very good movie. I was very surprised by that. The other one that was better than I was expecting, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. I watched all video games films one week. It was a Super Mario Brothers movie, that, and Dungeons & Dragons. And I was expecting Dungeons & Dragons to be the best one of the three and Pokemon to be the worst. And it actually flipped. Pokemon was actually really good. And this is coming from somebody who is a Pokemon fan. When they talked about making a Pokemon movie, I kind of balked because I was like, how is that going to work? Are you really going to make a Pokemon movie where it's Ash Ketchum and he's trying to catch all the Pokemon? How is that going to work in a movie? But this movie was done pretty well because they passed all that and just turned it into something different. But yet it still remained pretty faithful to the source material, and it was actually funny and pretty fun as well. I thought that Bill Nighy kind of slept throughout the entire film, to be absolutely honest. But other than that, I thought it was a good movie. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And then the other one that was better than I was expecting, Pieces of April. I am not a Katie Holmes fan. I've never really liked her as an actress, to be blunt, like really. And when she wasn't in the Batman, the sequel, The Dark Knight, I was like, great. It's like, good, because she was not really that good in Batman Begins. She was like my only issue with Batman Begins. So when I selected this as a Thanksgiving movie, I was fully expecting not to like it very much. And I was actually very surprised. Not only did I like her in the movie, I thought she actually played April very well. But the film itself was actually incredibly effective. And I really enjoyed, and there was an emotional palpability to it that I wasn't expecting, that I actually really enjoyed in the film. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed Pieces of April and was surprised by how much I liked it. My next category, why is this so beloved again? These are films that a lot of people seem to really love and really enjoy and think they were one of the best films ever. And I watched it, and I was like, wait, what? What am I missing? The first movie is the one that won the Oscar this past year, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, when it comes to the action and some of the visuals, I will admit Everything Everywhere All at Once is actually pretty good in that end. I thought visually it was very interesting. But story-wise, character-wise, I wasn't that enamored by it. I also was kind of stunned by the people who won awards for this movie. I think Ke Huy Quan deserved an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in this movie. I agreed with that. But how do you give Jamie Lee Curtis an Oscar and not Stephanie Hsu? Stephanie Hsu was actually really good in this movie, and I think she deserved a lot more credit than she got. I thought she was the best performance in the film. And as much as I like Michelle Yeoh, you know, she's done better in other films. I don't think Everything Everywhere All at Once is a bad film, but I don't get the outpouring of love it got. I don't get the numerous people who stand on this on Twitter and on social media claiming it's one of the best films ever made. I do not get that aspect of it. So the next movie, The Breakfast Club. This film's fine. I thought it was a good movie, but it's a standard teen drama. Like, there's nothing really exceptional about it, really. I don't entirely get why people are attached to this movie so much. It's just five stereotypical, or is it six? Some stereotypical teenagers in a high school setting find a way to coexist. Okay. It's like, sure, that's great, I guess. I don't get it. I think the movie's good, but I don't entirely get why it's so beloved. And the last one for why is this so beloved again? Field of Dreams. Me and Kim reviewed it this year, and someone has to explain to me exactly why this is so beloved. I made the comment on the review that I think you really have to be attached to baseball in order to actually enjoy this movie. And we had a couple of commenters on some of our posts saying, I hate baseball and I love this movie. So, I don't know. I don't get exactly why people love this movie so much. I thought it was emotionally manipulative. I think the main character is fucking crazy and fucking stupid and needed to be checked out. And I thought it was kind of crazy that the wife was like, oh, you're hearing voices? Oh, you need to change the farm? Sure, honey, go right ahead. What? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. This is not coming from somebody who hates baseball. I actually like baseball. I used to play baseball when I was younger. I still watch baseball from time to time, but I don't get the love for this movie. I think it's not only exceptionally corny, kind of lame in certain ways. I did not really enjoy that movie at all. I came out of that going, what are people talking about with this movie? And then for the final category, it's basically, I'm glad I watched it. Movies that I am glad that I experienced, but I don't necessarily have strong feelings for, or really a love or a hate feeling to it. The first one is Jeanne. Jeanne was crowned the #1 movie of all time, or the greatest movie of all time, by BFI Sight and Sound last year. And one of the things I did last year from the beginning of the year was I selected random movies from the BFI list and watched them. But I made sure to watch Jeanne at the end. I wanted to experience that movie specifically. And my feeling is I'm glad I did. I'm glad I watched the movie. The issue that I have is I think the length of which it operates is entirely unnecessary. You could have cut that film to an hour and a half, 2 hours, and still had the same impact, and I wouldn't have had such a headache afterwards. I think that's my feeling of it. I think watching that go on a snail's pace of 3 hours and 30 minutes, where you're just watching a woman do chores for 3 hours and 30 minutes, was just like, okay, I get what you're trying to say, I get what you're doing, but this was not necessary. It really was not. You could have had the same impact in much less time. I know there are people who vehemently disagree. They think it's a brilliant movie, and I think to a certain extent it's a brilliant movie too, but to me it's kind of hard to justify the 3 hours and 30 minutes of watching a woman do chores without getting to the point of saying, okay, I get it, move on. And then, no, we're going to knead dough for 20 minutes, so we're going to beat meat for 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, fine. It's like, okay. I'm glad I watched it. I really am. I don't foresee myself watching it again, but again, I'm just glad I experienced it. And then the other film I'm glad I watched, Beau Travail. This was number 9 on the BFI list. I came out of it lukewarm. Beautiful movie. Gorgeous movie. Absolutely stunning movie. This is a film I'll definitely watch again at one, but I came out of it going, okay, I get why this is loved. I get why people like it so much. I don't think it's for me. I just don't think it's for me. I think a lot of people that love it call it visual poetry, and maybe that's where my disconnect is, because I kind of suck at poetry, but oh well, what can I do with that? It's definitely a stunning movie. I just didn't get the emotional attachment to it that I think a lot of people did, and I will watch it again, but I just came out of it kind of like, okay, cool. It didn't hit me the same way as others. Okay, so let's get into my top 10 most thought about films of the year. And we're going to start with number 10, Hard Boiled. Okay, so I saw Hard Boiled for the first time this year. And I said something at the end of the review with me and Zero that Zero was like, oh boy, oh, that's spicy. And it was basically saying, you know what? I think this is better than Die Hard. I know people are going to be like, whoa, okay, hold on. I still think that way. They're two very different films, by the way. So to argue which is better is kind of a weird, pointless endeavor. But I will say I enjoyed Hard Boiled a great deal. I think the action was really good. It has two really good actors in Chow Yun-fat and Tony Leung. And it's just, the action itself was spectacular. The hospital scene was really good. The hospital sequence, which was basically the third act, really good in that movie. I definitely enjoyed Hard Boiled. I still think about Hard Boiled a lot. It is something I want a 4K release of. I want Criterion specifically, to get the license back and release it in 4K. I would love to buy that right away. Number 9, Michael Mann's version of Miami Vice. The main thing I thought about this film when I watched it, when me and Zero reviewed it, was I can't understand how so many talented people can create something that could have been made by a C-list director with B-list actors. Unless that was what they were going for, which is a possibility. I just think this was a waste. Even like the way that the film is shot. The movie looks good, but it's not incredibly amazing. And then the thing that Michael Mann is known for, which is action, was okay. I think that my issue is that the film is just okay. But when you consider the talent that you have, which is what, Jamie Foxx, Colin Farrell, Michael Mann as director, you would expect a lot more, but it wasn't that at all. So I was actually pretty disappointed by it, even though I thought it was good, but not great. Yeah, Miami Vice was something I thought about all year, and it was mainly because I was disappointed by it. Number 8, the big movie that was talked about all year, which was 2023's Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig. I watched this last month with Kim, and I still think about this movie. Barbie was a very interesting movie that I wasn't really expecting. I knew when the trailer came out in the beginning of the year, it was going to be a little different. I didn't expect the direction it was going for in this, and I was pleasantly surprised. There were a couple of issues I had, but I think this was a very effective movie, and it really makes me interested to see what younger kids or people who get into film like I've been into film, how they react and how their tastes develop as time goes on, if Barbie is that movie that turns into that catalyst of them being film lovers. So I'd be very interested to see how that turns out with people who love Barbie. Number 7, Licorice Pizza. I had a very visceral reaction to Licorice Pizza, and it was that I think the movie is beautiful, it has great music, but the story in itself, I just had a profound distaste for. The story is basically a 25-year-old woman befriends a 15-year-old boy, and by the end, a romantic relationship develops around them. And I think that kind of threw me for a loop a bit, because I was like, okay, I understand this is a beautiful movie. I understand that it looks great and it's got great music and everything. I can't get past that. I just can't do it. I just don't understand that and why they thought that was a good idea. And I held that opinion for months until one day I thought about it when I was looking through movies I loved, and I saw Call Me By Your Name. And Call Me By Your Name is about a young man who's about 22, 23, who has a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old boy. And I'm thinking about this going, wait a minute. I love Call Me By Your Name. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a really well-done movie. Why do I not have that same visceral reaction that I had with Licorice Pizza than with Call Me By Your Name? Why am I not having that same reaction? I don't understand why I was kind of put off by it in Licorice Pizza, but then I was completely fine with it with Call Me By Your Name. I think, thinking about it now, I think it's because Call Me By Your Name makes it very clear what's going on, whereas Licorice Pizza develops that. It turns into like a friendship where the woman is like, what am I doing with these kids? What am I doing? And then it kind of blindsides you all of a sudden and goes, oh yeah, I'm actually in love with this kid. Like, what? I think that might be the issue. Because Call Me By Your Name is very to the point. It's like, oh, this is a love story. Whereas Licorice Pizza doesn't go there until the very end of the film. That might be my reaction to it. Number 6, the documentary Tower. I had a very odd reaction to it. Tower's main issue that I had is I came out of it going, is this really a documentary? The way the Tower works is for the first 2/3 of the film, they have actors playing out scenes from the shooting at that college, but it's rotoscoped with animation. Like, you're seeing some live footage, but you're not seeing exactly what happened. You're seeing it played out. And you're led to believe for 2/3 of the film that the characters are speaking in first person. Third act of the film, they reveal that the victims are the ones that are narrating, but the actors are saying their words, I think. That's the big problem I have with Tower. It's called a documentary, and I don't think it is a documentary. I think, honestly, it's more of a narrative piece. It's more of a narrative film, but with a documentary tacked on in the third act. But in both instances, I don't think it works. To me, Tower is kind of a disappointment. I think my biggest issue is it classified itself as a documentary, and I don't think it is. I don't think it really is a documentary at all. I think they just tacked it on as a special feature, and then, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we did this in the third act? Yeah, okay, go ahead. And that's basically what it was. Number 5, 2007's Once. Me and Kim watched it. Was one of the first films that me and Kim reviewed together during the year. And the thought that I had about it was, the music is fantastic. Movie sucks. It's like, I hate the movie. I think the movie is bad. That has stayed the same. But the only reason why I keep thinking about it is because I still listen to the music. I think the music is amazing. I think it's excellent. I just don't understand what was the thought process of the filmmaker who thought that they could possibly make this film with untrained actors. Now, I know the story. It was originally supposed to be with Cillian Murphy, but Murphy passed as soon as he realized he couldn't pull off Glenn Hansard's music. After that happened, they lost their funding, and this is the result of Once. The film looks terrible. The main actors, which are Glenn Hansard and Marketa Kralova, they are singers by trade, and they're fantastic singers, but they cannot act. They just cannot act. It really hurts the developing relationship of the film to the point where I am kind of confused at times. Okay, is this a romance? Is this a friendship? I don't know where this is going. It doesn't really get to that point, I think, and it kind of just ends in a weird way. I'm like, okay, why? Like, all right, whatever. But again, the reason why I think about this film so much is I love and still listen to the music. I think the music is fantastic. I think the music is beautiful. And it just is crushingly disappointing to listen to this music and love it, but then be reminded of, oh, This is from that movie I really do not like. So, yeah, I ended up recommending the movie based on the music, but if you'd rather just listen to the music, knock yourself out. But I think the music is outstanding. Number 4, But I'm a Cheerleader. We did Pride Month at that time, and me and Zero watched But I'm a Cheerleader, and I was expecting this just to be a crass, gross-out comedy. And I was surprised by how emotionally adept it was. I was surprised by how sweet it was as well. Pleasantly surprised, actually, because I liked it a lot more knowing what it was. So I definitely enjoyed But I'm a Cheerleader. I think it's a sweet movie, and if you have not seen it, watch it anytime. But if it's Pride Month and you want to watch a happy Pride Month movie, go for this one. This was a good movie. I was surprised by it. We're heading to the top 3. Number 3, Cinema Paradiso. This is not much of a surprise. I like this movie, or I love this movie, really. But, like, I was stunned by the ending of the movie. Like, the end. I, unfortunately, decided to watch the director's cut, which I think was a bad idea. The things that they added to the third act just did not fit very well towards the end of the film. But I think that Cinema Paradiso is a beautiful movie, and it really gets to the meat of why people love movies, and why people get obsessed with movies, and why they love them so much. And that final scene, oh my god, that final scene really hit. Oh man. Number 2, which I think is the most surprising movie of this year, the one that surprised me the most, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I have heard from a lot of people, oh, Fast Times is a great movie. And in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, it's great for a teen movie. It's great for, like, a movie for teens, or a movie about teens. I felt that way about every teen movie except for Dazed and Confused, because I think Dazed and Confused is a really good movie. Even if it is about teens, it is just a really good movie. And Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or is like the 1B to Dazed and Confused is 1A, because I think it is an outstanding movie. It shows, honestly, the sex lives of teenagers. They don't romanticize, they don't aggrandize a lot of the stuff that happens with teens when they go through this period of time. It's refreshingly honest, and I really enjoyed how they did that, and they made the characters believable. That is the one thing about teen movies that I kind of get annoyed by, because you would have a good character, but then they would go into some unbelievable kind of adult tangent that I don't think teenagers really would go through. Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is so true to form and so realistic. The thing that they do in these movies is they kind of typecast the characters. If the girl's interested in sex, she's a slut. If she's not interested in sex, she's a prude. There's no in-between, but like Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is not a slut, but she is interested in sex. They balance that so well in this movie that I was very surprised with how well they did it. It just felt very real and true to form. And it's a film that I think, even though it's set in the 80s, I think a lot of people can identify with. I think it really stays true to what it's like to be a teenager and having those hormones raised and wanting to do certain things. So this is my number 2. And number 1, Mishima: Life in 4 Chapters by Paul Schrader. This film was stunning. It was so beautiful. There are certain scenes in this film that still haunt me to this day. The second story they have in this movie, oh my god, that sequence still was like, wow, that's brutal. But it is such a gorgeous movie and such a well thought out movie. It's a film that I will want to watch again and again to get more out of. I'll probably fast forward through the BDSM scenes, but other than that, I think it's a gorgeous movie. It's a beautiful movie. And it's the one I kept thinking about all year after I saw it. It was just a movie that I am glad I got to experience, and I thought was just an amazing movie to watch. I fully recommend this movie. It is beautiful to watch. Okay, so that is it for this list, and that is it for this episode of I Am the Wiz. On Thursday, I'll be reviewing Seven Samurai, directed by Akira Kurosawa. On Saturday, me and Kim are reviewing Sunset Boulevard, directed by Billy Wilder. And then on Sunday, I'm going to make it official, the best first watch films of this year, so check that out then. And then Tuesday, I'll be reviewing The Conversation, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. I am the Wiz, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.